Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, what other thing is a revolution? Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men follow reader. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.
Hello, how are you? My name is Celestino Marina. I'm running for City Council, District 5, and I would like your support. Together, we will win. Thank you.
Laredo College needs a leader, an educator with a vision to move forward for a positive change. This is why, as your candidate, I want accessible education, and most importantly, I want to listen to your concerns as a stakeholder, students, faculty, staff, and taxpayers. It's time for education over politics.
Vote Justin Huntsnusher Casiano for Laredo College Board, place 7.
Hi Laredo, this is Carlos Perez. I'm running for Laredo College Board of Trustees Place 8. You can follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CG Perez for LC. I look forward to gaining your support this campaign season and earning your vote November 3rd. Thank you.
Back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a luminary from the martial arts, Shihan Dana Abbott. How we doing, Shihan? You good?
Really, really well, and the day is not over yet, so I'm happy for that.
Absolutely. We started off Monday kicking, and you're out there in Arizona, we're out here in Texas, and we just hope everybody out there that's dealing with this COVID stays safe. That's all I'm going to say. But touch base on you, on how you get involved with the martials. How did you get involved? Because you're one of the foremost authorities here, I would say, Japanese sword. And how did you get involved with it?
Well, I started martial arts, as most everybody well knows, in the 1970s after I got out of college at Arizona State. And I landed a job as a surveyor for Yavapai County, which means there was a police athletic league. And I started doing punch kick with them a couple of times a week. And for some reason, I liked it, or it liked me. And within 4 years, I was in Japan learning with all the masters. And the reason why is I'm anal retentive and I like to do fine stuff and I can practice over and over and over again. I'm the type of person who can dig a trench and have it done faster than anybody else. So with that, because sword swinging and intense trench digging is basically the same thing, I was able to just polish and polish and polish, which the Japanese really, really like. And then from there, of course, I was in Japan at that time. So would you have any questions about, now you know why I decided to go to Japan? But,
you know, we'll get to that one as you one thing, studying with the masters.
yes.
And in Japan, most of everybody's martial arts. Who were the ones that influenced you the most and why?
They were all my teachers. I didn't have a bunch of teachers that I'd go to, like 10 or 15 or 20, but during my time in Japan, I'd work out with Shizawa sensei and Abe sensei and those guys. And then after I started going into the other aspects, you know, you can only do a master's so long, and it's usually about 2 years. So after a couple of years, I went off to different things as far as like the Toyama Ryu, instead of doing Seitei series through Kendo. And those knee tie-dye masters, because I did go to the best, most well-known Kendo school in Japan, which means the world. And those masters were teaching there, especially Abe sensei, since 1955-56, when they allowed Kendo back into the schools. So I was taught by all the old World War II vets. So nothing fancy. You point, you shoot, and then let it go. Same thing with swordsmanship. It had to be perfect, spot on, because if it wasn't, you'd be pushed away. So these guys were short, little bitty guys, looked like little kamikaze pilots, because they were. And they taught me how to stand there and take it. And not when I say take it like take the beating, because what you do is just stand prim and proper like an officer and go through everything with tight posture and everything like that, because they knew that in 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years later, if I followed the same pattern, I would be just like them. Now, next month, I will be 64. I have the same body type that they do, which means I can be practicing Kendo in my 90s, and that's what their main goal was, to find good people who can take the art for the next generation. So most of those people that I practiced Kendo with away from the masters, who they also became masters, but they became high school, junior high school teachers for Kendo throughout the archipelago of Japan, and a lot of them became first responders, a lot of them became military. So you can see that when you do a martial art that has a little bit more energy into it, and you have to be a little bit more finer in your technique, they trust you with a lot more responsibility there.
You know, and you said something very true, and it's a very now. They taught because they wanted me to do it as a lifelong. How can you know, here in the United States, you know, I train in France and so on and so forth. So the attitude of training abroad from the United States is not the same. We live in a kind of microwavable world, you know, 2 minutes, better be ready.
Yes.
I'm going to put a video and it out. I'm going to become a master. I know everything that needs to be done. How was your experience when you brought that back? How was the American mindset towards that?
When I came back here to the U.S.?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's completely different. See, in Japan, Kendo is a way of life from roots going back a couple of thousand years. So if you did Kendo, and then well, let me put it this way. My father-in-law liked me better than his daughter, because I practiced Kendo the American way, no, the Japanese way, that way. So that really helped. Coming back here to the United States, it went from your roots, it's part of your tradition, to, hey, I paid $50, I paid $200, and I just want to learn what I want to learn. So people here in the United States that practice swordsmanship or attempt to, they're worthy for about a week, and then they don't last because it's too hard. Actually, you know what it is? They just have more excuses not to do it. Same way they had excuses not to go to college, not to get the best job, not to do this. Same application is with martial arts here in the United States. Over there, I didn't take a camera because if I started taking pictures, my first few days there, I'd be thrown out as a tourist. They need 110% of your undivided attention. And here in the United States, maybe 2 hours a week, they give you 80% of their undivided attention. And that's the biggest problem because in my life, it is part of my life. Instead, we're going to do this next weekend for an hour. So no one is worthy that much.
Now, how do you see the kendo and those are Japanese swordsmanship goes back hundreds of years?
Yes.
How could you do that to the modern urban Western mindset self-defense? Can it be adapted?
Well, we did that when I came back to the United States and I started building those softer weapons because I discovered really, really fast, if I hit American martial artists with bamboo more than twice, they'd never show up again. So we made the softer weaponry, which allowed them to train from the top down instead of the bottom up, because the bottom up takes years and years and years. The top down, hey, you can be doing it in a few minutes. So that's what we started doing that way. What was your question again?
Could it be adaptable, the self-defense practicalities of these martial arts to the modern American urban mindset?
Doing it with the softer products, we tried to work that in. The hard part is everybody's mindset is made for tomorrow. Everybody's mindset, or most everybody's mindset, is made for, well, you know, I don't have time today because Survivor's on TV. So what we have here isn't martial arts that it's hard to put on people. It's hard for people to adjust it in with their lives and use it as a tool for mind and body. And that's a really difficult aspect. Did that answer your question?
Sure. You know, we were talking to a dear friend of ours, one we consider a brother, Frank, and he said, I made my knife for the great swordsman Dana Abbott on the katana style. How do you think of that? Do you see that influence you've had in other people here in the United States? What do you think about that?
You were breaking up. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What I said was, your influence, the swordsmanship, also influenced another great martial artist, Bram Frank, take a katana blade, knife, you know, kind of style of the katana. What do you think about that?
Me influencing people?
Sure, yeah.
My swordsmanship doesn't influence anybody. My opinions certainly don't influence anybody. But the old masters, even here in the United States, they see how tall, how poised, and how tight the technique is. And you can see from across the room. It's like looking at military people. You can see the privates, the way they stand compared to the sergeants, compared to the majors, compared to the general. Everybody has their own posture and movement, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, you know. Now let's touch base. The last time we were here, we were talking about how a sport aspect there has turned kendo to the softer swords that are going on there. Has that taken off in the martial arts in the U.S., do you think?
Oh, that took off.
That type of sport combat?
Yes, that took off around the world a long time ago, before the turn of the century. When I came back to the United States, there was like 16, 18,000 schools, and we were in about 70% of them. We still are. We pushed it out really, really far. We got everybody involved, And it wasn't through just the sword. We made a whole line of products because we discovered about 2001, 2002 that I'm practicing Japanese swordsmanship. Well, the Filipino stick fighters, they don't want nothing to do with that. Or the Korean karate, or the Chinese, or this or that martial art. It's sort of like, this is our religion and we can't see anything from yours. But here's the secret to it all. Well, the weapon is an inanimate object and it doesn't need philosophy. It just needs to be moved from A to B. And then when I sparred everybody from all the time I was running around the world, and then when I was dealing with everybody, it was just in there, hit the person, get out. And everybody discovered the brevity of weaponry, basically, where you don't need a lot of technique because you can't use technique in real time. It's like shooting a firearm. How much technique do you need to shoot a firearm? You can be pretty good plinking. But if you shoot 30, 40, 80, 100,000 rounds out the tube, you're going to be fairly proficient. Same thing with swordsmanship or weaponry. If you do it 10,000 times, you'll be that big. You do it 1,000,000 times, you'll be pretty smooth. But if you do it 5,000,000 times, by the time you hit your 60s, you'll look good into your 90s. So what's happened is a lot of people,
absolutely, you know, that we go back again to that martial arts is life. How can I say? Life, it's a lifestyle. We can put it that way. Martial arts,
yes,
it's not a hobby. You know, we get folks in here all the time, and they tell me, "Well, my son wants to do martial arts," and I go, "Why do you want to do martial arts?" "Oh, it's because there's nothing better to do from 4 to 5. You know, oh, well, you know, well, you insulted me and half the rest of the people that are in here. You know what I'm saying? But it's, you get that type of thing. You need a hobby. You know, martial arts, to me, is not a hobby, just like you. Martial arts is a lifestyle. We do that. We do that all the time. We eat, we breathe, we look at things differently. And in the United States, it's getting rarer and rarer to find that type of student.
yes.
And people say, well, you could get them younger. I think so. I just think it's just rarer and rarer to that type of student, you know, that mentality that fits in. I don't know what it is. What do you think the problem is?
They're not worthy anymore. They don't want to be worthy. The people that I run into that want to do this sword, they don't last more than the lesson. And it isn't me browbeating them. It isn't me doing this. It's that if they don't get it right by the 3rd minute, they fall apart and quit, especially with the younger crowd in their 20s, the 30s, or 30s and under. For some reason, if they can't get it done as fast as Darth Vader, thinking that he's going to be with the Force, then they're not going to pursue it because it isn't instant gratification. Therefore, they don't know how to fish. Same people that can't cast a sword will probably be poor fishermen. And they don't have not the responsibility, not the drive, but the discipline in their inner self to just get through anything. And that's one of the hardest things, because remember, in this new day and age, if you can see my eyes, everybody gets a trophy. The only trophy
absolutely. Well, now we understand what happens when we give everybody a trophy. We have these protests that are going around. That's what happens. But, you know, that's another story. Now, has the universities and colleges local in Arizona accepted the sport as they did in Japan, or not yet?
We did. When I first came back here to the United States, we were in the school systems, we were in universities, and the team I had were also in universities like Clemson University or Arizona State. Not as far as hardcore, say, PE classes. Those were a little fewer, but at least the clubs would have it. Well, here's what happened over a period from 2000 to 2010. The students all of a sudden decided that, you know, I'm going to sleep into 2 o'clock now instead of 10 o'clock in the morning. you know, my daddy pays for everything and I'm not going to worry about it. And let's party and swinging the sword is just too restrictive for my peace-loving, free-floating mind. And that's what happened. The Department of Education has turned people into mañana. I'll do it later. I get a trophy, whatever. Swordsmanship molds them into responsible people that produce stuff. And that's the difference. Same as karate.
No, you're absolutely correct. You know, it takes a different responsibility. I would even say more so than an empty fist heart, right? And because now you're having something that can part somebody in two, okay? And so you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility of not only to respect life in general.
Yeah.
The more you get, the damage that can happen.
Yes.
So you have that respect and that ideology follows it, and of course, it's going to make people better citizens throughout.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's why they do it in Japan. If you're a little heavy and your metabolism a little slow, you do judo. If you're a hyperactive
Yep.
and you're just full of energy, you do kendo. Kendo people don't get hit by cars because they pay attention. Judo people don't fall in the snow when they're old because they know how to. And between both of them, they both make beautiful team players for everybody throughout the archipelago, 6,852 islands.
Absolutely. And that's what folks do not understand. In the in the Western corporations, a lot of corporations from Japan, they have to study martial art. They have to be team players.
Yes, but what's happened is even though they want to become team players, I remember back when people were getting their MBAs back in the 1970s. They're taught to be just glorified secretaries. So now they're degreed and educated, but not in ikioi or ra or the spirit of the thing. They have no concept, which means they're really good soft salesmen. And they just don't have that. There's just no one to follow. There's no one to follow.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. If somebody, my brother, if somebody wishes to follow or learn Japanese swordplay, how can they get in touch with you? How can they they may have sessions? How can they do that?
Well, let's make this really easy. I made a website. I have different Japanese names for it, but the easiest way to find it is learnthesword.com. Easy, learnthesword.com. But we want to make this easy. People overthink the sword of the simplicity of weaponry. They think of it like it's some scientific thing that's going to go into space instead of some I can't speak anymore. Some native somewhere on an island wielding a knife or a stick. So they think about it too deep and they make it and they turn it into something so difficult they can't complete it. So that's that. Did I answer your question?
Yes. If somebody wants to touch base with you, so learnjapanese.com. What was it again?
Learnthesword.com. So here's how we make this easy. Instead of you thinking you need all this equipment and swords and all this, the first thing you learn is Kihon, the basic foundation of 5 strikes. Takes minutes to learn, years to master, but you'll be proficient in a short amount of time. You can take a 40-inch length of broomstick and cut it off to start today. So here's the problem I see with most everybody, because everybody calls me every day. I get lots of phone calls, but what I don't get is their follow-up. What, I gotta work? What? I got a bone in my leg and I can't move my foot anymore. Those types of excuses. Or I got a bone in my hand and I can't move my wrist. So I'm not going to be able to do this. Or I'm going to buy the bestest sword in the whole bestest world, but that's going to take 4 months to get here and I'll train then. So that's what happens. Everybody can push it off because they're living in mommy's basement or grandma's garage. And in 1979, Carter developed the Department of Education from the HEW, made back in '64. And what that did, that started making people, as you well know, harder to lead. We don't have any leaders. We don't. And if you're going to learn sword, you got to have that mindset, like you're going to accomplish something, and you're going to put it on to your fellow man.
Absolutely. Well, anything you'd like to say to folks out there that always resonates from you, from your teachers that you had in Japan, the masters you use every day? And we'll leave it at that. We're running out of time.
Yes, yes. So, you know, all my masters in Japan lived it. They were it. Here, people follow it. They embrace it a few hours at a time. And it goes to prove when you start off in your 20s and you go with all your peers, by the time they hit their 40s, they have excuses. By the time they hit 50, they have more excuses. By the time they hit 70, they have every excuse in the world not to stay in shape and have a well-tuned body. And that's one of the biggest factors when you get a little older. Like, you know, we're getting old. I don't look old, but next year I can get Social Security or Medicare. You know how that is. And, you know, but what swordsmanship has taught me, not about fighting, about paying attention, being the best I can be, and knowing that if I do both, I will have a long, prosperous life, and I won't look like an asshole to everybody because I'm not mad all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My brother, thank you for your words. Keep on doing what you're doing. Be safe, and we'll see you soon. Let's just get COVID out of the way.
Certainly will. And thank you very much for the Zoom. And also, last year, that was one great Hall of Fame. I still talk about it because you brought in senators, you brought in congressmen, you brought in judges, where everybody talks about it. You got it done. So therefore, you have all my respect.
You be safe. We'll stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.
Hello, how are you? My name is Celestino Marina. I'm running for City Council, District 5, and I would like your support. Together, we will win. Thank you.
Laredo College needs a leader, an educator with a vision to move forward for a positive change. This is why, as your candidate, I want accessible education, and most importantly, I want to listen to your concerns as a stakeholder, students, faculty, staff, and taxpayers. It's time for education over politics.
Vote Justin Huntsnusher Casiano for Laredo College Board, place 7.
Hi Laredo, this is Carlos Perez. I'm running for Laredo College Board of Trustees Place 8. You can follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CG Perez RLC. I look forward to gaining your support this campaign season and earning your vote November 3rd. Thank you.